Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Next Drift Live. We are here with another awesome guest. I got to fix my microphone, It's pretty
That's
bad right now. One second.
that's an
Yeah, a little bit. It's the ongoing issue with a live broadcast. Oh, let me get this bug worked out. It's always something. Here we go. We didn't have this problem last week.
uh-oh.
Yeah, let's see here. This is my doing. I hit the wrong button. Anyway, we'll bear with it right now. So I've got with me one of the team members of Team El Nino Fishing, Nino Aversa. And as many of you may know, Nino is a what I consider one of the best fluke fishermen that there is. So we're very lucky to have you.
Th- Thanks, there, Justin. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite, and it's actually really pretty cool that you asked me to come on, and looking forward to talking some fluke. That's one thing that we definitely have a passion for, and you know, as soon as most of the time when we get talking about fluke, it kind of flows. So I'm not usually really good about being on this kind of stuff, but like I said, since we're talking fluke, I think I'll be fine.
Heck yeah. So, we usually have like a layout for what we want to do, but I just figured that most people would like to kind of hear the conversations that you and I have and just kind of ad lib it and just talk about every little facet of flukes fishing and get into the detailed stuff. And, you know, one of the things I wanted to talk about with you that a lot of our viewers really want to learn is, location and how we go about finding good fluke spots that are consistent and have big fish on them. Tell us about some of the things that you do to find those types of places.
Yeah, so obviously the first thing that comes to your mind when you talk to any good fluke fisherman or any fisherman for that matter, you want to find the structure, right? I mean, that's kind of the first on the agenda when you're either break the inlet and you're thinking about where you want to go, and and you might even come across some good stuff on the way out to where you planned on going. Um, but one thing I do that seems to work well for me um, when we find a piece is find bait also.
Hmm.
I think my theory is when you find some decent bait on it, and obviously this is where kind of the electronics fall into play. I mean, we're lucky enough and fortunate enough to have really good electronics from Humminbird, and as far as our units and stuff like that, where we could side scan, and and the side scan stuff's kind of more for finding the structure. It's better for time management. Just getting to the piece quicker and getting set up, and get your guys going. But one thing that I've always done that seems to work is um, differentiating the different kinds of bait that you see on your machine, and trying to learn that as you fish and over the years, um, to basically, like, you almost don't even say anything. You kind of see it and you're like, well, I really don't know what that is, but it seems like it looks like squid to me. So this piece seems to be active, and I always say to myself, it's a hot piece, and that to me means that in definition is basically, it's not just a bare piece on the bottom where it's either a tank or a big rock or a bunch of rocks and stuff like that. You don't see any, um, you know, little squiggly lines on top and stuff like that. So, that means a lot when I'm looking for somewhere where I say, okay, let's hit the brakes and try. And then obviously there's spots that we go to that are repetitive year after year,
Hmm.
where we've had good results, as far as size, class fish, the class of the fish, and how how it relates to that piece or that structure, or how you fish it, um, tides. There's a obviously, we've talked about this before. That there's so many factors that play into a hot piece, which I call a hot piece.
Right.
But initially, I think just in the first couple minutes of being out there, that's the first, for as far as location, that really sticks out to me, is if it's got some, even other fish, like if you see some decent sized arches down there, um, it doesn't, obviously it's not a fluke because it's up off the bottom or whatever.
Right.
Um, that doesn't, that to me is telling me that it's an active piece because there's other fish on it. They got to eat too. So, and then the other thing to that too is if they're eating up in the higher up in the column, that stuff falls down, and then kind of like almost like when you're fishing for bass and the bluefish are eating the bunker up top,
Mm-hmm.
and then the tail, all that stuff falls down, and that's why sometimes you use heads when you're chunking, that kind of analogy. You do the same thing for for when you're trying to find a piece. So,
Right.
but for the most part, like I said, I haven't really, there's been some times, especially when we fish montauk, that we'll be out in the middle of what we call nowhere, like in the middle of the sand, or somewhere where there's a steep ledge in the sand, that they just might be just on the move, and either chasing bait, and they come off the piece,
Mm-hmm.
to chase the bait or something like that, and they'll be in a rip, generally like in a decent depth change, in the beginning of the rips or in the middle of the rips, where you would think that people would be bass fishing, and
Right.
sometimes that's happened. Where we're catching fluke, and then next you know, a 50-pound bass comes up over the rail next to you, and you're like, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
Typical montauk, thing. So, but no, I mean it's, and then overall location. I mean, obviously, how, kind of how we operate. I mean, we, um, kind of listen to reports, and see where kind of the flow goes, and not so much listen to reports, but just basically as far as water temperature. I mean, that kind of drive for me in the beginning of the season. That kind of drives me where I want to go, where we want to go, to fish. We have the great opportunity and the luxury of being on the trailer, um,
That's nice.
and being able to go to the fish. And obviously, time is everything, is the essence. And if you, can't fish because of the wind, there's also some spots, you know, up and down the East Coast where you can get out of the wind, even if it's a northeast wind. So,
Right.
it does play into the program very well, you know.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's all good stuff. And we kind of talked about it last night, and I'll let everybody know we had to kind of cut our conversation short, so we didn't have to repeat everything over again. But
right.
we talked for a good 45 minutes. One of the things that we had touched on, and I think we could kind of segue into, is the equipment. And I've noticed that you use a lot of spinning equipment, and so do your guys, your teammates. And, tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, myself personally, I use spinning. I actually used to be a conventional guy. Um, but if I can kind of explain without, I think I lost you. Uh oh.
Nope, I'm still here.
You here? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I lost you for a second there, but, so it's kind of hard to explain, like how we call it the crossover, but, and I lost you again. um, you still there,
Yep.
JC?
Keep going.
Okay.
I'm just trying
Yeah.
to
So,
fix this microphone.
gotcha. So basically, where I sit at, where I stand at fishing, I have, a second helm on the boat that I drive the boat from, even when we're fishing. Um, so the way it's configured, if I'm looking at the water, if I'm facing the water, and I'm driving with my left hand, like kind of like with my back to the steering wheel,
Hmm.
I like to use a spinner because of the fact it's in my right hand at all times, and I can still drive the boat.
Yep.
And then when I either feel a hit, or if I go to set the hook, it's in my primary hand right away, instead of, on the contrary to having a casting set up where I'm I'm jigging like this and then have to kind of set the hook and then cross over and then reel, if that kind of makes sense. And I've lost a lot of fish that way
Hmm.
when I was driving the boat. So um, because like sometimes I'll still be in gear, and when I go to set the hook, the boat, everybody's lines are kind of getting screwed up because meanwhile I'm trying to fight a fish or trying to cross over. So the switch to the spinner was mainly because of that, but uh, another reason is because it's kind of a lighter setup.
Yep.
I use Shimano Stella with a nice Custom 701L.
Good stuff.
Yeah, black hole. So
Yep.
super light. I can have it on my hand all day without, worrying about getting fatigued or whatever. So, super awesome setup. And I got probably 3 or 4 backups where, like we talked about last night, that are ready to go at moment's notice and rigged and, set up so we can fish the heavy structure without worrying about not being in the water. So,
Sure.
and then the rest of the guys, I guess I could talk about who our team consists of now. I guess
Sure.
while we're going through it, but so so a lot of guys know him too. Ronnie Redrow, he's like my main man. There's the team there. So Ronnie's down on the bottom right there by the Hummingbird sign. He's uh, he's like my main man, the team manager. We do a lot of the planning and setup for the week and getting ready for the either whatever weekend, either if we're fun fishing or just regular fishing or tournament fishing. We do a lot together and we talk a lot during the week to get prepared. Um, Top left, that's my cousin Frankie. He kind of tournament fishes with us and gets out with us fun fishing as much as he can. We call him, Mr. Sniper. I'll tell you what, man. When he comes out, it's usually he has an unorthodox way of doing it, but the man sets the hook, and there's usually a nice fluke on the other end of it without even, he almost like fishes for him for like that when he's black fishing, like same scenario where, if he feels the first twitch, he's setting the hook. It's like we go at it a little bit different. We'll let it eat a little bit, but he lets it rip. So and then Bill Montgomery, who's like next to me, right there on the right of me, I guess. He's he's our class clown slash great fisherman, all around sportsman. He pretty much shoots everything, catches everything. He's always doing something on the sportsman side of things. But he's also the guy that keeps me level headed, and I credit him to a lot of our successes due to the fact that a lot of times we get tense, and um, like I said, he could give you, a one-liner that'll just put you to the gunnel, at a moment's notice, which really keeps us all in check and keeps it real, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he looks at life at a way where if you're not having fun or laughing, man, you might as well forget it.
Yeah.
So I do credit him. He's still young buck and up and coming. He just got his captain's license.
Good for him.
So he's running his own boat, and he's actually in the Bahamas right now, working on an offshore setup down there for billfish and stuff like that. So he's learning a lot, coming up, and he's a big part of our team. He always will be, and like I said, I credit him a lot for a lot of stuff. So, but and then next is Anthony DeAndrea. He also runs his own boat a lot too, but still a big part of the team. Um, like I said, Ant's pretty much I call him, he's like a speedy man. He's like never stops. He's always no matter what. If I need help with the boat, he's there. Pretty much anything. So give a lot of credit to Ant. Good friend, good person. All of them are. They really are. They're good people. So
Nice.
um,
Tell me about these big checks we're looking at.
so that was the Fluke to Puke, I think 2019. We were fortunate enough to really have a good day. I mean, that's a Point Judith, Rhode Island tournament, but we made the trek across because we know Montauk well. We
Yep.
fish a lot, so it was a far run. It was probably 36 miles, I think, to where we caught the fish that placed placed first, I think, in the and well, actually, we placed first in the bag, placed second in the overall for heaviest. Um, they were all caught in montauk, to be honest with you. So a lot of guys thought we fished around block and stuff like that, but no, we figured stick to what we know and head over and it was a good move, good team decision, and that was great. We pretty much almost swept the whole tournament other than overall heaviest.
That's awesome.
So that was a really good day. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So
Cool.
and it was
Good.
good. It was good to do it in a different, total different area. I've never been at a Point Judith inlet before. So if anybody's ever been at a Point Judith, I mean, them rocks and the way that jetty set up is there is pretty gnarly, and it was blowing pretty good, and it was about pea soup fog as you can get. And we had a, like I said, 30. Well, we ran about 25 miles first, and then fished there and waited for the seas to calm down. And I looked at Ronnie and said, "Man, this is our opportunity to head to the south side because it just, you could just see them off in the horizon where they're kind of ripply."
Yep.
Well, they kind of, every drift I kept watching for that, watching, and all of a sudden I didn't see that ripple anymore. I looked at Ronnie and said, "This is our opportunity." He's like, "Dude, I'm with you. Let's go." So we made the extra, 10 miles, run to the south side, and it worked great. So it's a great day.
Good
Yeah,
deal.
one to remember.
Nice. Good for you guys.
Yeah, so good stuff.
One of the
Uh,
things that we touched on last night, guys, everybody will have to forgive me because I'm actually hearing myself echo in the headphones and I can't fix it. But we had talked about you know the feel, and we it's kind of one of those detailed aspects of fluke fishing, and the feel meaning what the bucktail, what the ball head feels like on the bottom, and feeling every little rock and change of from rock to sand, and how important that feel is, and it's something that you acquire over time and through experience. So, kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So before we jump into that, I forgot one of our key guys to mention. So
Oh, geez.
because like I said, he's one of our main guys. I don't want to forget about him. Joey King. He just started fishing with us about a year ago. Great kid. Super focused, super laser focused all day. He's another sniper. That if you know him, don't stand next to him when he's getting ready to set the hook because he'll bring you in with it. I mean, he's just a really good fisherman, that is super dedicated. We call him the bait guy. He's the one blackfishing time of the season, that he won't show up in my driveway without a bushel of crabs. And I don't know where he gets them or how he gets them. Everybody seems to, not have him, and he gets them somehow. He's just a truly awesome kid all around. And like I said, I just wanted to mention him. I don't want to forget him. So,
Good deal.
but yeah. So going back to the feel, yeah. So I consider like there's probably, I would say it probably happens, and I'm sure you're in that same category where you know guys that run the boat and feel and know like more of the how the tide is and how the current works with the tide and the wind. As soon as you set your bucktail down or your jig or whatever you're using, you kind of have that little butterfly in your stomach that's like, wow, this is going to be a great day.
Yep.
This is it. So just to give you a quick little story, so when we fished the flounder pounder, and we were fortunate enough to win that tournament. The opening day is when Dylan caught the fish. Um, that morning, same type of scenario, almost as the fluke to puke, where it was pea soup fog. We made it out to where we wanted to go. We fished the area a lot during the year. Seemed like there was a lot of boats around because we could still hear people around us. But the minute that my jig hit the bottom, I looked over at Ronnie again, and said, "Yo, Ron, this is it." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm telling you right now, like this is the best conditions that I felt my jig feel like that in like forever. So um, there's a lot to be said for where we were fishing at because there's a lot of upwellings in that area, and it affects the fishing a lot, and it's tough fishing. I mean, it's not like montauk where you have a bunch of different holes where you can find them.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of just heavy, super heavy structure. You got to really weed them out, and the conditions got to be perfect for that because if you can kind of picture how your jig's jigging on the bottom, if it don't fall in the right places or it falls, or it just doesn't present right, you're not going to catch the winning fish.
Right.
So it just so happened, and it might be coincidence. I don't know. I'm just saying. I looked right over to him. I said, "Listen, this is it, guys. This is going to be the day. I'm not sure if we're going to win this thing, but we're going to catch fish." And I'm telling you, I don't. They might be able to tell me exactly how long it was from when I said that, but it probably 15 minutes later, Dylan, his rod bends over, and we all knew it was a great fish, and everybody got quiet. And we're watching him, and I couldn't. I had to turn around. I couldn't watch because I could tell it was a good fish. And that thing surfaced, and I don't know what the heck happened. I mean, they could probably tell you a little more because, like I said, I wasn't watching it because I couldn't watch it. I was going to throw up, and that thing went into the net, and Ronnie was netting it, and it went into the net, and you would have thought we won the Super Bowl. I mean, it was like Dylan, and this is why I love him too. He has so much passion. He literally fell backwards. Ronnie fell on top of him. My cousin fell on top of him. Then I ended up throwing my rod out of the way. I'm like, should I jump on? Should I drive the boat? I didn't know what to do. We just knew it was like, that's going to be on a leader. We didn't care because we were going to have fun, right? I mean, we were going to have fun regardless. And here we are. We have the chance of a lifetime sitting on the deck, of our boat right now. Like, holy shit. So yeah, I mean, it was the feel was perfect, and the rest of that week for that matter. I mean, we caught a shitload of fish that week. Week, I shouldn't say that. I mean, we actually, because we did pre-fish and stuff like that, but it's a best tournament 3 out of 5. So 3 days out of 5 you could fish. So that was our first day. So we put that on the board, and it stayed the whole week, which is like torture. So,
Yep.
but no, it was the time of our lives. I mean, it was like one of the best weeks that I could ever remember. I'm sure the guys could probably, say the same thing because I mean, it was just awesome. But for me, it was nerve wracking because I wanted it for the guys, more than anything. I already had my time. I was already, on cloud nine. I mean, I couldn't have any of a better time, and for how hard the guys work. It was all for them. I mean, honestly, it really is. And I say that with an extreme passion because the guys I fish with, and obviously when I kind of named the guys, I told you, one's already got his captain's license, another guy, Anthony's getting his captain's license. They're all guys that can leave my boat tomorrow and all run their own boat very successfully. And that means a lot to me. That means the world. So, and, even like Ronnie, I mean, perfect example. He could, like I said, he could go buy a boat tomorrow, or get his captain's license and start running a boat tomorrow, and he'd be a bad mofo. So
Yeah. No, it's good to have guys like that.
yeah, it means a tremendous amount, to me to have those type of guys, and they're all great friends too. We meet here at my house a lot. Just to, I'll get pizza for the guys, get a couple beers, and we just talk shop. We'll tie rigs. They tie rigs. I mean, like, who does that? Like, we're sitting there having a good time. Oh, hold on, let me tie 100 rigs. It's like, really? So, like I said, I don't think I say it to them enough, but I truly, truly appreciate having the guys that I fish with. They're really, really awesome guys.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
good. So, getting back to that feel that we talk about, guys like yourself, your teammates, John Skinner, he's another one. His success is a lot of because he has really good feel, knowledge of the fishing and all that stuff, but it's that feel. And so let's talk about the equipment a little bit. What type of rod, what length of rod, action, the line has a lot to do with it. Kind of give us like a basic setup.
Yeah, so our basic setup. I mean, we obviously braided line has revolutionized both black fishing and fluke fishing. Like you would not believe. Obviously, everybody can understand that.
Mhm.
But our key is like and myself. I mean, some of the guys like. I mean, Anthony likes to. He runs heavy stuff that but he also feels the fish differently, and then sets the hook differently too. So a lot of the guys' mannerisms and how they fish often dictates on how light they go or how heavy they go. I
Mhm.
like I like as light as possible because for me, I'm doing a lot. I'm running the boat. Like I have my mind on other things. So if my setup, if I feel I have a feel of like, wow, I just fed a little tap. You know what I mean? I don't want to miss this fish, and then I kind of
Mhm.
either. And the way I fish is that I let him eat. Like I'll open the bail sometimes and let him like as soon as I feel that thump, meaning a fluke. I'm not saying blackfishing, God forbid. When I feel that thump, like or like where I know that he just gave it a nice gulp, um, I let him have it for a little bit. Like that's just the way I've always fished. And either open a bail or I'll just try and make it feel like that rod, like he don't feel it. Like every little subtle movement, just be as stealth as possible. Because if he feels you, then obviously he's gonna let go. So
Right.
that's how fluke are, right? I mean, they're gonna, they sometimes they hit it and it's sideways in the mouth, and the minute they feel any type of resistance, they're going to let go. So you got to really be stealth about it. But some guys, like I said, my cousin Frankie, he'll as soon as I watch him. I mean, he gets like just like a blackfish bite, like that little blackfish bite. I've tried it that way, and I can't get him. He gets them. So I don't know how he does it,
Mhm.
and then but that's how his feel is, and it works
So
for him.
let's
So
talk about the lines specifically. Um, you know, I kind of experiment, and there's a couple different braids that I like. Um, I found and they all have different strands. You have the more strands that the braid is, the more expensive it is, but it's smoother. So I experimented last year with even up to like 16 strand braid. Um, and I varied through different pound tests. I used 10, I've gone up to 30 just to kind of experiment. What pound test line are you using mostly? Even like the leader, you know, I'm I've experimented with Seagar. Um, my go-to right now is Sunline Shooter because it has a lot of very little stretch, but it's really abrasion resistant. Um, Kind of walk us through that a little bit. What pound test you using? All the way down to your leader.
yeah, so generally we're at 20-pound tests for everybody pretty much. Sometimes we'll sneak a blackfish rod in there where there's like, a 30-pound test in there, but that's just basically either by mistake or whatever. But if we're truly setting up our food setups, it's 20-pound test. We uh, uh, as far as what brand we use X9 Berkeley. That's been smooth as silk for us. It's it seems to be really the go-to line for us. We fell in love with it right off the bat. Um, we use white, and the color's a big thing for me because I like to see the lines at all times. So guys will make fun of me, but I banned moss colored lines on the boat. So that's a big thing for me. But anyway, going back to the more the technical stuff, but um, as far as the leader, we'll use fluoro, but we don't think we need fluoro.
Mhm.
But we're between 40 and 50. We use actually Jigging World gives us a lot of our terminal tack. Well, not gives us. We get a lot of our stuff from Jigging World. Um, that's it's right around like I said, 40 to 50 pound. And it seems to be working really well as far as abrasions resistance and stuff like that. So that's what we've been kind of using and being happy with it. Um, so far so good. We like it. We like the setup. So
Nice.
yeah.
What about let's talk about, you know, bait selection, bucktail versus, ball head versus, do you guys using any bait rigs?
Not really. No, we generally do your typical, top and bottom, teaser on top, like, with your jig on the bottom, jig on the bottom, teaser on top, about 12 to 18 inches apart, just your typical teaser rig. Um, we use a bear hook for a teaser. I know a lot of guys up north like using, something for a teaser, either silicone skirts or whatever, but we have a tendency to just stick with the bare hook because we think the gulp does plenty of action. It's
Hmm.
very visible. It has scent to it. So we just do double 6-inch grub as far as baits. Sometimes we'll tip them. If we get fresh anything fresh that we think that either we're having a hard time, a struggle um, during the day or whatever, we want to change things up, we'll change it. But um, for the most part, like we talked about last night, I try and keep everything um, close. Everybody, all 4 or 5 guys, pretty much using the same stuff, so it looks like a school of bait fish going to the water,
Right.
and it's all similar. So
Hmm.
um, that's kind of the method to my madness, as far as my pet peeve. Um, but I mean, obviously, if that's not working, you got to try other things, right? That's the fisherman way of doing things.
Right.
But for the most part, we've done well that way. It works for us. That doesn't mean that it works for everybody else, but it does work for us the way we use the boat with boat control and stuff like that, and to stem the tide and everything. So,
Right.
um,
Let's get into
but
that. Not to cut you off. Let's
yeah.
get into that a little
So,
bit.
oh, and just one more thing.
Yeah.
Ball jigs with no hair. That's definite. Like that that goes back to the feel thing. So ball jigs. I mean, we're let's say bucktail with hair seems to like give you the same type of feel all the time. And I feel that a jig, a ball jig gives you more of a perspective on how the tide's going. Like it just gives you more of a realistic point of view on what's going on at the bottom. That's
Sure. Feel
kind of like
wise.
my thing. Yeah, feel wise. Yeah,
Yeah. Less
exactly.
drag, less resistance
Yep,
in
less
water.
drag, less resistance. Yep. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's probably what it is. It's just like kind of one of those things again where it works for us. I mean, we've always went to ball jigs, and it's. I mean, we went to ball jigs, and we've done regular bucktails, but we've had better results with the ball jig. So
Hmm.
that's where we kind
I
of
think a lot of
set
it's
our stall.
confidence too.
Yeah, sure.
I'm
Yep.
kind of the opposite. I've
Right.
experimented with the ball heads and palmer heads, whatever you want to
Yep.
brand you
Yep.
want to use, and definitely caught fish on them. They work.
Yep.
You guys are obviously you know uh, having success with that type of style.
Yep.
Um, I think it's a confidence thing.
Yeah.
It's what
Yep.
what you're used to, and there's definitely a place in my mind. You know, when you have a stronger tide, your drift's a little bit faster. You're going to definitely have more feel.
Yep.
With something with less resistance on it. Um,
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know,
And then just to answer your question about like, dragon bait rigs and stuff like that, or spoons or whatever, that kind of goes total 180 of what we are bought into.
mhm.
And by saying bought into, what I'm saying is basically going back to the guys again, right? My guys, they're so dedicated, and it does take that amount of dedication because if you go back to the days you were on a party boat or running on either a six pack, everybody kind of has their own thing that they're doing, right? And then the captain adjusts or just deals with the tangles or whatever. But the way we fish, the way I like to fish, and hopefully be productive, is everybody be bought into the same thing and not kind of changing up the whole program mid stride. So because
Mhm.
it's all timing thing, right? So everything that we do, first of all, we do 2 types of fishing. We do tournament fishing, and then we do fun fishing, right? Or let's say just practice or just your regular weekly fish.
Scouting. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So our, our team basically tournament fishes all the time, and that keeps you sharp. To where the tournaments come around, it's almost like second nature, and there's less hiccups, there's less opportunity for those miscues to happen if every time you go onto that boat, you're fishing for a tournament. So what are those things? So we set up basically everybody on the boat when they come normally traditionally has 3 to 4 setups ready to go. No, changing line and all that stuff. Like it's got to be ready to go. And we rig up the night before. We all meet at the boat. Whatever. If we're staying, if we're at a transient slip or whatever, and then we rig everything up, and then we'll have so for each guy, everybody will have 4 rods ready to go. All the gulp is basically by committee. So everybody, we have our tubs of gulp that we have on our Bonner box there that, everybody can literally just turn around and grab out of the same one. So we all kind of get together. We all share the gulp purchases and stuff like that. So everybody will get together. We'll buy our gulp for the year, or buy 2 or 3 times a year, or whatever how we use it.
Yep.
And it's by committee, and we do it same thing with the jigs. We have 2 nets, one net's for one side of the boat, one net's for the other side of the boat. So this way there's no miscues that way. But we have plenty of rod holders. We get made fun about that all the time. We look like the porcupines because there's rods everywhere. But everybody, like I said, that's a big thing with me, because I don't want anybody in the cabin messing around with their tackle boxes. Tackle boxes getting emptied on the floor. You're looking for Grandpa's rig that he used at this spot 20 years ago. He caught this big one. I don't want to hear it. This is the way we fish. I'm not trying to be, an asshole about it or whatever.
Right.
That's just the way we fish. And like I said, to get 4 or 5 guys that are bought into that, and they don't call me crazy or call me nuts, that's pretty awesome. Because like I said, sometimes, like most fishermen, their first impulse is to change. Like, let's try something else.
Right.
But we call ground and pound. That's part of our nature. We love ground and pounding it out, and that's what wins tournaments. That's the way what we think wins tournaments.
Well, you guys have a system. The system works,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's all the little finer points. Having everybody using the same type of of lure and rod and reel, and it's helping you be able to have a consistent drift and know how the boat's going to be controlled, so everything's consistent.
Yep.
And
It means a lot. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And it all comes into play, even from when you hit the ramp, or let's say when we leave the driveway. I mean, everybody, like, it's almost like second nature. Like, nobody has to say anything to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's so normal to everybody. Like, we just do it. It's everybody. Like, so we get to the ramp. Everybody knows who drives the truck. Puts me in the water. I come down. We do our thing. We load all the stuff up. Another big thing is that I'm a sticker on, and this is one of the reasons why I bought a Parker, is so when you're tournament fishing, you can't afford losing, like, let's say forgetting the net, or forgetting your jig box, or whatever. So nothing leaves that boat. That's probably not a good thing to be saying over a live video thing, but probably going to have an empty cabin one of these times when I'm leaving the boat somewhere. But nothing leaves the boat, and there's a reason to that, because I don't want to hear that we're floating away and we're halfway through the inlet and we forgot this or we forgot that. So there's another variable that alleviates that kind of stuff. So consistency. That's just, it's kind of boring, but it, like I said, it alleviates all the variables. As much variables as possible.
Sure.
So,
yeah. So I knew you guys had something because every time I either saw you guys in a video or a picture, everything had its place. You had your Gulf containers right there in the middle of the table, in the middle of the boat. The rods were all, situated a certain way. And even I think all your guys have their own little spot on the boat.
Yeah, there's some, we call the 2 corner pockets. They're usually the hot spots, sometimes it all depends on how I'm either running the boat or how the tide is, or sometimes we go over to fish a different way sometimes, but most of the time, they're all good. I mean, they're all snipers. I mean, they don't say it, they don't admit it, but they're bad mofo's. I fish with some, I have a lot to live up to with these guys. These guys are snipers, man. They're bad mofo's, man.
That's cool. That's
So,
fun.
but yeah, I mean, it's all about staying consistent, and if you want to tournament fish, and like we talked about last night, so I'll lead into that. So we consider, you have a tide, right? 5 6 hour tide, right? Whatever. There's going to be, you find a productive spot, and I know some of the spots that I know that if I ground and pound it, they're going to bite eventually, right? There's that window of opportunity there. Um, some people think it's the fish fight all day. That's not like, obviously it's not like that. I'm not,
Right.
I'm thinking, sometimes to get a chance at a big one, that one that's going to be on the leaderboard, it could be an hour window, and that is in my head. It's almost like a clock sticking in my head all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I can't have somebody in the cabin worried about grandpa's lure, and because if all 5 lines aren't in the water, then we're not looking like a school of fish.
Mm-hmm.
If 2 guys are off of that whole system, then there's only 2 guys or 3 guys sitting there on one side of the boat. The fish could be on this side of the boat. You know what I mean? So we're fishing very, very, like small windows of opportunity sometimes. Sometimes the bite's good enough where you could go a pretty decent ways, and that's kind of like more in the montauk, location part where there's more of a bigger footprint that you have space to kind of have that same, you'll pick a keeper up, and then a couple seconds later pick another one up.
Mm-hmm.
But where we predominantly grew up fishing in Cape May, sometimes the concrete rubble is, as big as my couch. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you have. And then you factor in the trajectory of where your lines are to 90 foot of water. So in essence, the boat position is so important, and the lines of the guys that,
Mm-hmm.
so you think you might be still like on the piece, but you're way off the piece,
Right.
and you're like, oh, I wonder why I'm not catching. Well, you're not on it. Maybe, and your depth finder might even say that you're still on the piece, but not the guy's lines. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's what means everything. So,
Yeah.
so generally, I try and do whatever to manipulate the boat position by the way the lines are in everybody's hands. So that's why I tell everybody I want bright lines, because
Mm-hmm.
I look around. I'm always looking at every guy on the boat. I can tell exactly what's going on at any moment in time, and then I basically drive blind, with the steering wheel and the controls behind me.
Yep.
I just sit there and watch the whole boat. So, and then my self fishing helps out a lot too. So a lot of guys, if they have a cabin boat and they can't go in and out all the time, and a good buddy of ours that comes up to Montauk pretty much every weekend, he actually has a longer ride than us. Steve Key, he does it, and it's pretty much like a semi cabin. He has an older Mako, badass boat, but like, he's so damn tall that he sits on his lean post. I don't know how he does this. I got a video on him because I don't know how he does it, but he fishes just like we do. I mean, he kills it up there, and I don't know how he does it sometimes, without breaking his arm or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's another guy that basically we've networked together and formed this like family that we have, that we all, we started going up to Montauk probably in 15, 16, somewhere around there. And then guys just obviously they see, man, we caught this, caught that, or we're doing well. So we formed like a little family, a network of friends that are from here, from South Jersey. A good buddy of mine, Chuck Starr, he brings his kids with him, which are awesome. Just watching them every week, that's just, makes you feel good. Just having them around and enjoying it. We grill, everybody's together at the marina. We all have transient slips, so it's like one big happy family. So it's a lot of fun.
That's a good deal. Hey, we've got a
Yeah.
couple questions. Let's
Oh,
see
cool.
here. Yeah.
Can't wait for
Uh,
this. I wonder who they're from.
no, they're good ones. We're gonna pick out the good ones. They're all good. Let's see.
Good.
Um, SK Mag 357. He says, "How
Okay,
much
Matt.
salmon gulp do you use?"
Oh, that's I know exactly who that is. I use zero. He knows that, and he uses probably the whole allotment of the northeast corner
Yeah.
of the country. Yeah, so that's Steve, my buddy, that with the Mako that I was just telling you about.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
a good pick.
so those guys put on a clinic with salmon gulp, and we can't catch anything but humongous sea bass on them things.
Really?
And we, I don't think we own a salmon gulp. Honest to God, it's usually predominantly. Obviously, you can't go wrong with pink shine.
Yep.
A lot of white, and you know, and we'll use, believe it or not, 6-inch mullet is really good too.
Hmm.
That kind of mimics like when there's squid around or something like that. But he's his team, man. They're the salmon kings.
I'm a
They
big
go
salmon fan myself, so I've got
right.
a couple thousand of them in the boat.
Oh, geez, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you'll fall right in line with Steve then when you see him up there. I'll point him out.
Good
And
stuff. Pig shine's definitely a good one.
yeah, pink
Um,
shine you can't go wrong. Yep,
Blue fuse
yep. Blue
and
fuse.
glow. How much glow are you using?
Oh God, we're actually out of. We just put an order in for. It's all good. We have a shitload of pink shine, but we put a lot of the order in for white. Yeah, we use
Hmm.
a lot of white last year.
Yeah, yeah, we
So
did too. Glow,
yep,
not so much glow. This year we're going to use more glow. There was
yeah, yeah.
that actually the last day of Fluke season. You were out there
Okay,
at
yeah, yeah,
Montauk.
yeah. I remember that.
Halkias
Yep,
was out there with Skinner.
yep, yep,
We
yep,
were out there, and that was that really dark day.
yep. I
And
remember that. Yep, and the
yeah,
bite was tough too. It wasn't
oh, it was
easy. It
tough.
wasn't. Yeah, it was a grind. Yep.
Yeah, it was spotty.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yep,
almost
yep.
seemed like the fish were moving. First, they were in like 60 feet. Then that bite slowed down. Then they were out in like 70, and then it moved back again.
Yeah, they're starting to transition at that time,
Yeah.
and especially, when you have a couple storms that kind of get them going. If it stays calm during that time of the year, as far as, and I say calm meaning, not too many disturbances that come up the coast or any hurricanes, stuff like that, the fishing could really be epic that time of the year. It
Hmm.
really could be like, some of the best fishing you'll ever see. I mean, there's been times where I think we've caught some of our biggest fish in that area right there. And I know I've seen our buddy Mark on the Montauk Star. I think it was Big Mike. He had a 15 pounder like right
No
next to us,
kidding.
right in that area. So, and I think that's the day that Ronnie had his 12.6. So, and I think Halkias even had a 10 or something that day. But yeah, I mean, really productive area. It's a tough area to fish for us because we don't drag bait, and it
Right.
really rips hard in there.
Hmm.
And there's mussel beds, so I've gotten better with using the Minn Kota in that scenario.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of one of the times that I really use it a lot during the fluke season is because I can keep the bow straight and then still use the outboard to
Yep.
keep the boat centered and not have because I'm not a center console, so I really have to have the guys out the back or directly underneath them. Um, so sometimes it gets tricky in there because it really on an outgoing tide it really rips around that point. And you can get up to a 6, 7 knot current that sometimes you don't even know it's underneath you. But man, when as soon as you put the lines down, they're like, see you later.
Right.
And then when it gets going with the wind, it really cranks. So yeah, it could be tricky, but I've learned a lot about that spot, and we've done well, recently. So for the most part, but guys that drag bait there traditionally do better because at that point in time, they're just weighting up really heavy, 12, 15, whatever, how many ounces, and I swear they come up off the bottom there for some reason after the baits because they're real aggressive and they're trying to get on that feed before they leave.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. We got
so
another question. Participation trophy fishing. Ball jig
participation.
solid / straight hook or swivel head?
Solid, no swivel head. And what else was that? What did it say again?
I think they were asking about a swing hook. That's what I'm going to guess.
No, no, yeah, we don't traditionally don't use the swing hooks.
All right. And then all around outdoorsman. Are you changing color based on water quality at all ever? Similar to
Um,
freshwater concept or only based on bait?
yeah, it depends. I mean, it's hard to really tell. I mean, if the water clarity is good up top, that doesn't mean that the bottom, and it happens in Montauk a lot because there's so much natural structure there with kelp and a bunch of other yurts down there. But there's um, we use white and pink shine, so that's kind of a visible color in our eyes. As far as so we can't really change other than like maybe blue fuse, which is a new color. That
Hmm.
might I've found out that's probably good on a murky day, where the current the bottom current's really ripping and churning up everything, and the fish don't have a chance to really have the optics for it. So
Right.
um, that would be probably my first. I try and change probably some other things rather than changing the color before anything, because I just have a lot of faith in pink Sean, white, and the common colors. But
Hmm.
that's not to say that we do have some miscellaneous bags like Blue Fuse and even Nuke sometimes or whatever, just something to change the mojo. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
Sure.
You never know what. It's hard to when you're fishing 80 foot of water. It's hard to really put. It's not like freshwater fishing where the column is the column, right? You're you're
Right.
you're kind of like in 10 foot of water or 8 foot of water, and you can see the depth really well and kind of stuff. But when you're in 80 foot of water, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moving parts.
And
Um,
also, there's not as much light.
there,
It,
there you go. Yeah. So there's always what I think. When you look at like I watch a lot of diver videos and stuff like that. It's kind of always low light visibility, so that's why I think the whites and the pink shines and the glows of the world, produce well. So
mhm.
in deep water fluke fishing. So
Yeah.
so yeah, yep,
Yeah. Berkeley has some other baits too, other than just the 6-inch grubs that we all use.
yep.
Um, we actually, I forgot the name of it, but it was pretty much looked like a straight stick.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and we had some pretty good success on that last year. My buddy John brought them, and
Okay.
we actually.
Is it
So we're
like
gonna
a
experiment a
big
little bit.
sand eel? Is it like
Yeah,
a
it looked like
sand
a big
eel?
sand eel almost. It was just
Okay.
I don't know. It was probably 6 inches long, but
Okay.
um, and he was putting it on his teaser, so he was
Gotcha.
using a teaser rig. But
Okay.
he caught a lot of fish on that, and I think it was right around that time out at Cartwright's when the sand eel schools had come in,
Oh
and there were
God,
like
that's
tuna that were visible. So I think
yeah.
everybody was kind of feeding on that, and
Yep.
that kind of lasted for like 2 weeks, and he was catching
Wow.
them on that particular bait really well.
Awesome.
I think too sometimes something like that doesn't have as much movement, maybe not as much vibration either. The tail on a 6-inch grub moves a lot of water,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think
Sure it does.
sometimes it's that little difference. A lot of people using gold grubs out there, so I think a
Right.
different profile and different feel probably definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, presentation is key with fluke fishing. I mean, they're ambush predators, so they're gonna key on a bait that looks really good to them. That's why and we've talked about this too. A lot of the reasons why we go to Montauk is because we know that nappy fish is down there. You know, and
Hmm.
and then you shared a pretty awesome experience yourself
Yeah.
on a giant, and that pretty much tells it all right there while we go up there. You know, yeah, okay, can we catch limits down here? Yeah, we can catch limits down here, but um, the 17, 18 pound fish, it's down there. It's just
Hmm.
he's gonna be, or she, or that fish is gonna bite when it's gonna eat when it wants to eat. So
Yeah.
um, and that's why I really like the key on to find bait on heavy structure, because I swear bigger fish move smaller fish off pieces. because of the
I agree.
size of the fish that they're eating. So they kind of colonize, like almost like blackfish on a piece, and it becomes a competition. And then when you take one of those big fish off, another big fish moves in. That's why traditionally when you go back to pieces year after year, you're going to catch bigger fish on different pieces,
Right.
if that makes sense. But
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10, it's because of the bait profile, and that's what draws. And this is all my belief. I'm not saying this is true or this is Bible. I'm going to write a book on it and all that stuff. This is me thinking
Sure.
that the bigger profile bait are on pieces like that that traditionally hold bigger fish, and that's why they do hold bigger fish.
Yeah.
And then where sometimes you can go to a piece, especially down here in Jersey, that you can catch as many 16-inch fish that you want. You're like, Jesus, what the heck's going on? Go to another piece that's traditionally you've done well on, and they're all 18 to 25-inch fish. That why is that? So
Right.
and that's why like traditionally they like to forage in the backwater, when they're smaller because there's shrimp back there. There's all kinds of different smaller profile bait that they're easy to get that they want to makes the fish grow and get bigger and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you know, just my theory.
No, I agree. I definitely think that that's the case. Big fish use particular spots, and you can almost like kind of forecast
Yeah,
when your next
yeah,
big bite's going to come based on a piece of structure.
yeah.
You can look at it and say, "Yep, there's three big rocks over here, and as soon as we come over them, that's where we catch that fish." And so we got to hit it right.
That yeah. I mean, it's that common. I mean, it happens. I mean, there's just that's just the way Fluke are. I mean, they're going to come and they're going to go to the same spots if they're still alive. If they still make it past the netters and us and
Yeah.
everybody else that's out there trying to get them,
Right.
they're going to come back to those same spots. I mean, it's amazing how it really fascinates me how the fish migrate and all the different species for that matter, not just Fluke. It's truly fascinating. It's just something that it's always intrigued me, and I've always been a big somebody that really likes to follow that and learn more about it. It's really fun, and then it makes you a better fisherman. If
Sure
you
does.
know the ins and out of all that stuff, and it does. I think you improve a lot by just seeing the mannerisms and knowing how they migrate, how they migrate and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I think that in the next 2 years we're going to see a 20 plus caught out at Montauk. That's my
I
guess.
uh I think so. I mean, Nantucket has a good shot
Yeah.
of holding a really nice fish, in that upper echelon. But for some reason, I don't know why, I have a strong feeling that Montauk's going to be, and I truly, really hope that it's going to be one of our friends or somebody that we can experience for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
But every time I'm banging a mug with somebody having a beer with, that we could talk about and say, wow,
Yeah.
that fish was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we've
That's
seen one. We were out there next to a couple guys that talked on the radio and said, hey man, Miss Montauk, Jamie just had a guy catch a 17, and we were out there that day. And just to share the water,
Mhm.
knowing that you had an opportunity, to be anywhere near that, that is amazing in itself. And he pulled that thing out of the core, and I'm like, wow. Like
Yeah.
that's what keeps people ask all the time, how do you go all the way up there, it's 4.5 hour drive, and you sleep in the truck, and it's like, that's why right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's truly an opportunity of a lifetime, and and it's bucket list stuff. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to travel to places that I could, when I get old and I'm sitting around and shooting shit with everybody, they'd be like, "You fished where?" Like I could hang my hat on that for the rest of my life, and it's truly awesome. And then if I could have people to come along with it, especially great friends of mine that you share the water with, and have them experience that same experience, I'm winning, man. I'm
Mhm.
winning. loving life. So
We've got another question, and I think
okay,
this would be a good segue into something else that we wanted to talk about that we touched on
okay.
last night. Um, all around outdoorsman, can you elaborate a little more on how using the trolling motor and the outboard in unison, um, and how why you do that, how you do it, and I think what the importance is. What are you trying to accomplish? And I think that'll be a good way for us to get into how to set up a drifting
Okay.
over a particular piece of structure.
Okay. Yeah. So great question. So so when so basically I put the trolling motor in a certain speed that is relating to the current, right? And I put it straight with the keel. So in essence, that basically just keeps the boat straight, the bow straight, because obviously the bow is the lightest part of the boat, and that's what's going to swing first. And then I basically use the outboard and put it in reverse, and then I'll vary the speed of the trolling motor, and then with the boat in gear in reverse still. So this way we kind of hover more, but then we still cover more ground by me changing the varying the speed on the trolling motor, if that makes sense.
Sure.
It's kind of you kind of have to be there to watch it, but and then I also steer to kind of affect, like if I see the boat kind of moving to one side to the stern or whatever, I'll steer the outboard, and then but for the most part the trolling motor works great for keeping the bow straight.
Mm-hmm.
Like center console guys, like you're fine. You can have six guys out the side of the boat, if you're spun around. But a cabin boat like my boat, you can't be spinning in circles, because you're not going to have a good day.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and then it helps with the speed, our drift speed, because we're in essence, and that's the reason why we're in reverse, because it's so if we're going in a 4 to 5 knot current, we're going like gangbusters, and guys' lines are out the back, like freaking 100 yards out the back,
Right.
and they can't catch up to their baits. Put it in reverse, keep the bow straight. Then now all their lines come to about like a 30-degree angle, and we're loving life. You know what I mean? Doing our same thing.
Yep.
Without that, like without the trolling motor, I use the outboard solely just to like basically keep us slow enough. I watch the lines exclusively. I don't watch GPS speed. I don't look at any of that, because GPS speed, that can vary if you're out there on a rough day and you're going up and down, you could be 3 knots and only going 1.5, and then it'll confuse the shit out of you, and you're next thing you know you're spinning around in circles. So
Yeah.
the lines tell you everything. That's all you need to know, is watch everybody's lines.
Yep.
And and then as you move your boat or maneuver your boat, the lines do the same thing, and they finally catch up, and then that's when everybody starts jigging.
Right.
So
And so let's talk a little bit more about that. I find you see people, and it's nothing wrong with it. These people making mile-long drifts, and most of the time, I'm so focused on being efficient because we have a limited amount of time out there that I'm doing drifts sometimes that are maybe 15 yards long, because I'm trying to aim for a specific piece of structure that's real tiny.
yep.
And so it's drift angle, it's drift speed, which then correlates to the angle of your lines, which is then connected to how your baits are going to be presented and what the feel is going to be.
Right. Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So we've heard obviously, we've friended a lot of people in Montauk, and they're traditionally all guys that like 1 mile drifts. They put their their nappy rig out the back, with a long squid, and crack open a beer and let it rip, and then when
Yep.
and
Nothing wrong with that either.
There's nothing wrong with that, and I've seen them catch monster fluke
Yep.
that way.
Yeah.
But for us, going back to the buying into doing a method to your madness, right? Like we have a tendency more to concentrate on that heavy structure. The stickier, the better. That's
Hmm.
why the four rods come into play. As soon as somebody snaps off, boom, there's another rod going in the water. That
Right.
opportunity, that window of opportunity, gets smaller and smaller. Somebody sitting there tying up, that whole scenario, it takes too long. It's just what works for us. It's not the right way or the wrong way. We kind of we learned that way. It's kind of a learned thing where in Cape May, which I consider there's some of the best fluke fishermen, I swear, on the East Coast are right in Cape May. I mean, like you could just tell when you're there, everybody's doing kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, we all learned. A lot of it comes from rip fishing for bass. Down there in the Cape May rips, the legendary Cape May rips. We all kind of grew up doing that, so that was all stemming the tide. So that's kind of the same analogy on the artificial reef structure down there. And the artificial reef structure is so gnarly. There's no way that a guy from Montauk can come down, bring his boat down, and then put his nappy rigs out the back, and then drift
Start
across
dragging.
side 11. There's no way. It'll never
Right.
happen. They'll
Yeah.
lose every rig they ever own. So with us hovering and slowing the boat down and getting to where we could jig and make that jig look realistic and just put it in front of their face as much as possible, that to us is the best formula. I mean, that's the best explanation for it. I mean, the more you dangle that carrot in front of them, they're eventually going to bite.
Hmm.
They're just going to get pissed off or reaction strike or whatever. I mean, obviously, like I said, the window of opportunity when they're hungry is probably an hour, but you have to fish it all day. You know what I mean? So if you're flying over that part of that tide, like you're doing 4 knots or 3 knots over top these pieces, them fish, they're barely seeing that bait come across their face. But if you slow the boat down, now it's a whole nother ball game.
Right. And that's the other thing that I want to talk about too is, making sure, and I'm always reminded people, whether it's my buddies or clients I take out on a charter trip, is to not be dragging. Especially when you want to stay in contact, and if your line's scoped way out and it's moving too fast, that sucker is flying. It's not even touching the bottom.
Oh yeah,
It's
no,
it could be 5-6 feet flying right over their heads.
yep,
So
yeah,
it's
it's ineffective.
right.
As far as we're concerned. I mean, if I can't use my resources to fish the way I want to fish, I'll just go. We won't even fish. We'll just try something else. There's no way I'm going to put my guys in a situation where they're 2 miles out the back of the boat and off the bottom and catching sea bass, and you know it's just not worth it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like I said, everybody has their thing, and they do very well at it, and they produce. But the way we were brought up to fish that heavy structure, you're going to be shit out of luck if you think that you could, I mean, there's some parts of the artificial reefs that are drift areas that, go transition from a lot of sand, and then you kind of have a piece of, structure that's not as gnarly of, let's say, a rail car, or some concrete with rebar sticking out of it. That's the gnarly stuff. That'll drive you nuts. I mean, you could literally, I mean, there's times where, we stick our head in it, and um, I think we've lost 50 rigs in like four drifts sometimes. I mean, it's
Expensive day.
no doubt. But these guys they don't care what I put them in. They're retying back in, retying back in. It's like
Absolutely.
amazing. Yeah, it's
Yep.
amazing.
If
So
you're not getting
it's
stuck,
fun
you're
to
not
watch.
catching fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good stuff. But
Good stuff.
but yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So
We got
definitely.
let's see, we got another question in here.
Oh, cool.
I think this is in reference to bait casting reels. Do you prefer
Okay.
low profile reels or more traditional round reels
So the
when
low
you use bait
profile, I'm
casting?
thinking you're like what you use, like the
Yeah,
ones
like
like
your Accurist, that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
No,
Low profile bait caster.
yeah. So we get great support from Accurate Reels. So and we just I mean we love the Accurate setups, the 300 Valiants for the conventional use stuff. Ronnie uses one that he I think he sleeps with it sometimes. I mean, that thing is so reliable compared to any other brand that we've ever used because we beat our stuff up. I mean, it's high torque situations. So, and we do a lot of it, and you're cranking up 90 feet every week, basically twice a week. You got to have something that's gonna last, right? I mean, we clean those things up and put them back together. I mean, Ronnie knows how to do it now himself. He puts them back together and in the parking lot sometimes and at Westlake and Montauk. So, but I mean, usually, like I said, I haven't really. I know Dylan's messed with the Accurist or that style. He likes that, just
Yeah.
how it feels in his hand. And then a lot of guys like the feature, click back feature or whatever that is when
Yeah, the flip and switch.
the flip and switch. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't mess with it. Like I said, I'm more of a Shimano, straight up spinner, old school. I love it, and and same thing with blackfishing. I predominantly jig fish, so when I'm blackfishing, so it's like spinner is kind of my go-to setup.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
not
I'd like a
saying like
spinning rod for blackfishing.
yeah, not saying that like in a big fish scenario, want to have I want to be prepared for the fight. So you
Sure.
want to have something like with a decent backbone that and a nice crank and power, like a good accurate and like I use the turn. That's like my go-to for a rig setup for blackfish.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean it's all good stuff. But I mean uh, everybody like we get a lot of questions, and the big questions is like, what do you do differently that nobody else does? And it's preparation. I mean, I hate to be that basic and that boring, but a fluke's going to bite, and you repeat it 100 times. A fluke's going to bite when it's hungry. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's not rocket science, but if you're prepared, you're going to beat them. You're going to get them. That's the whole key is being prepared and being ready and alleviate the variables, and they're just going to come over the rail. I mean, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It's all timing. So,
It's time being the right place, the right time,
yep,
and knowing where that right place is.
exactly,
And it's a lot of
exactly.
this stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah,
You know,
I love that stuff, man. That
me
I could
too.
sit there for hours. So yeah, me and Ronnie, we'll text, and I'm sure you do it with your guys too. We'll text
Yep.
pieces, especially blackfishing. I mean, it's like all night long. It's all here's another text, another piece, another piece. It's like even when he don't come, he's texting me stuff like, "You're going this weekend. All right, look at it. Try this piece. Try that piece." It's like it's awesome. It really is.
Yeah.
You know.
I think, what we can both do is, for the folks that are, just starting out into fluke fishing, give them
Yep.
some, just maybe like four basic points to start with. What?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it kind of depends on where you're going to go. I mean, like if you're gonna like let's take Montauk for instance. I mean, that's a perfect scenario to start at. Like that's a great area. Obviously, you're in the Mecca. But the basic setup, I would still go with, even if you're not slowing the boat down and doing what we do as far as the boat control and stuff like that. There's going to be sweet spots in the tide where you know I'm not. It's probably a bad choice of words saying anybody can catch during that, but it's a very good common time to catch. But I would definitely use the same rig that we use. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that rig, but I mean, if you want to drag bait too, that's a great basic setup that catches fish. I mean, it's just and then the main thing is just pay attention to your speed. That's the key. So be more active. If you don't want to slow the boat down, it's not your game, you know, and you're dragging bait. You really got to pay attention to that window where the boat is sitting perfect. Everybody's lines are good, and there's going to be a time where that happens, and you can't be eating your, hoagie or, drinking a beer. You got to be ready to rock and roll when that happens. Because they'll start, as everybody knows, they'll bite and bite and bite, and then next thing you know, they'll shut off as quick as they started. So
Yep.
that's my big advice to a newcomer is just try and time, the way the boat's moving, the best for the tide. That's key is boat movement, bait presentation, and obviously be very very conscious, of your baits too. If you're using any type of fresh fish, or strips of any strip baits or of any kind, change it out. Don't be afraid to change it out, because what happens is, let's say the skin comes off of it, that presents different. That's all key
Exactly.
stuff to look into, because I know guys that they cut their baits perfectly and they do well. I mean, they'll use gulp just like we use, same exact rig, and tip it with spearing
Hmm.
and and a strip bait, but that strip bait's got to be perfect. And if it's
Right.
not perfect, their guys that are preparing it for him they're going to hear it. He's definitely going to let him have it. So, and and then for them guys, it's bait preparation. Like keeping it fresh, keeping it out of the sun. That's another big thing. That a newcomer definitely pay attention to. Get something as fresh as possible, because obviously the scent's going to be 10 times more prevalent than something that's been frozen and freezer burn and sitting in somebody's freezer. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yep,
think it's also, getting out there and not being afraid to experiment.
yeah,
You
yeah. That's
know,
it. Yep,
your first few drifts might be those mile long drifts,
yeah,
to
yep,
kind of test out, see what the bottom's like as you go,
yep,
and experiment with color, weight,
yep.
if you're
And
using a
that's a great
bucktail.
point. That's a great point you bring up. So that's awesome for a newcomer to understand that when let's say you do start out doing those mile drifts, when you do it like twice, and then you have a good hookup ratio where you have two guys, and then all of a sudden you go past it and nothing happens, go back, and now you kind of located your fish by that 1 mile drift. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So that's a great way to kind of segue into something that could produce very well. But I would definitely go back and pound that area
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
do find it.
Yep.
So
And it's that repetition. It
yep,
really, everything that you and I are talking about tonight is experience,
that's
and
what it's
it's
all
time on the
about.
water,
Yep, time in
and
the water. Yep.
and building your book of experience.
Yep, yep. And we have an awesome advantage to ourselves because of the fact that we've fished pretty much every area from Ocean City, Maryland, maybe a little bit south of Ocean City, Maryland, just about north of Block Island, and Point Judith, that area. So, and that's both sides of the Sounds. No, I'm sorry, not Sounds. Both sides of Long Island, South and North Shore, all the way down through to Raritan, down the coast. I mean, I'm talking. I think we fished probably every artificial reef, going down the coast, um, damn near close to all the way down to Ocean City, Maryland. So, with that
Awesome.
being said, everything, every area is different and presents different, and we notice that as soon as we start fishing. Like you could just tell, like this isn't like home, or this isn't like Montauk, or
Right.
and you learn that, your mind remembers that, and you take that info and you say, okay, well, and it goes back to that analogy of always fishing for tournaments, so we're always practicing no matter what, and then this way, come tournament time, it seems like my guys are just like in emotion, like they're just like there's no tense, or nobody's tense, or we're just doing what we normally do every week, and that's kind of like our rally cry when we're in tournaments. Like Ronnie says it all the time, like let's just do what we do, what we normally do every week, and that's
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 it.
what we do. So
That's good stuff.
'cause, yeah,
If you want a challenge, Nino,
oh,
I think we should. It's someday plan on having you guys come up to Long Island Sound in
okay,
the middle of the Sound. Like say from the West End to maybe Fishers,
okay,
and we do some exploring. If you're up for a real
yeah, let's
challenge,
do it. Okay,
you know, there's definitely big fluke out there, but they're hard to find.
okay,
Yeah,
I got you.
we caught a couple out near 28-foot shoal. Um,
Right.
one that was over 12 pounds, and another one that I
Ooh.
swear was 14. But those things are so rare out there.
No, no. Now, do you fish the Rollins at all?
I don't.
Yeah,
No.
we tried that a couple times. We done decent, but nothing crazy. But I mean,
Yeah.
we fished Peconic a lot too. I mean,
Sure.
that's yeah,
That
that's
used to be the
so good.
mecca
Yeah,
early spring.
when the squid went back there, we'll
Yep.
probably be up there this year.
Yeah, we'll be out
Because
there.
yeah, well, we always say like, oh, we're just gonna start when the ocean fishery starts up, and meanwhile, as soon as we hear one fluke's caught in the Peconic, we're like, let's go.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
yeah, it's
Well, I definitely want to do this again.
yeah, I'm all for it, man. Yeah, maybe we'll bring the guys along next time. We'll do
that'd
like
be a blast.
Yeah, a couple of the guys. Oh, it'll be hilarious. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So it'll be good. Yeah, so
Cool.
we'll do we'll do a little combination of the team, and then I think it'll be interesting for sure.
That'd be awesome. I'm looking forward
definitely.
to it. Yeah, put that together, and we'll do it.
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate the invite, and like I said, it's always good to talk food, man. Always.
Absolutely.
I appreciate
we'll
it.
have many more chances.
Cool. Sounds good, man.
Thanks a lot for being here.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And next week we're having our good buddy John Helkias on.
John.
The Jigging Jerks.
He said he's watching. What's up,
He's
John?
a good guy. He's
awesome.
We're having a good time.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks
good.
again, Nino. It was great
All right,
great
man.
talking to you.
Same here, buddy. Thanks.
Take care, pal.